Welcome to another The Real Money Coach. It's Thursday, September 10th. Is it me or is time flying by? Look, I want you to go ahead and type in the chat box where you're watching from, because as you know, we're about to take it to the next level. This session tonight, I tell you, is so dear to my heart because what we're talking about is planning for the unexpected, right? Isn't it true? Just raise your hand. Okay, I can see you if you're raising your hand. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about when I say, sometimes life throws you a curveball, right? Sometimes you get an uppercut, right? Sometimes you just get pounded by life. But isn't it true? It's not about whether or not you're going to get knocked down by life, because you will get knocked down. The question is will you get back up? And so look, Dr. Benita's here, Brad is here, right? Carol Bates is here. Thank you for the happy birthday wish. Okay, that's my sister from another mister. But here's what I'm saying. I'm so grateful because tonight we're going to be really talking about planning for the unplanned. I mean, that just flowed through me, right? Because life does happen. And I want to ask you this question, right? Oh, Brother Dave's up in Boston, man. We got the East Coast. Come on, who else is here? Talk to me. I want to see who else is in the house. Type in what city are you watching from? We just love to see, where we are and all that good stuff. But I want to ask you this question to get things kicked off, and I'll bring my colleague Tony up, is if you knew you only had 72 hours left, if you knew that you have 3 days, 72 hours, and then all of a sudden you're going to be taken away, what would you do? Type in the chat box. What would you do the last 72 hours of life? What would you do? I want to see what you would do. I know what I would do. I personally would let every person that has made a difference in my life, I would give them a call, because I only got 72 hours. I probably, now it's Zoom, right? I would do a video FaceTime, where I just say, look, I want you to know you blessed me, right? And so what would you do? What would you do 72 hours? And then for my, my mom and my inner family, if you would, I'd probably try to organize a way that I could get as many people together in person so I could give them a hug, so I could give them a kiss, right? What would you do? You got 72 hours left. I want to know, what would you do if you had 72 hours left on Earth in this physical realm? What would you do? Type in the chat box. And good, Marvin's here from Atlanta, Georgia. All right, Ruth is here. Oh, so grateful. Type in the chat box, what would you do if you had only 72 hours left of life? You have 3 days. I already said, for me, I'd just like write down all the people that have contributed to me, and I would, reach out to them. I would even for those, really as many loved ones as I could get together. I probably have like a little social, so I could just, physically give them a hug and give them a kiss. What would you do? You see, to me, that's a powerful question. And the reason why I'm asking it is because why wait? My friend Mike Perry always says, man, I'd rather give my bouquet of flowers while people are alive. So that's a very powerful question. And when, we got all these individuals all over the United States zooming in. But that's a real question, What would you do if you only had a few more days left? And the reason why I'm saying that is because why are you putting it off? What's so important is for each one of us to go out and let our loved ones know. I love what Brother Dave say, I gather with family and friends. Yes. So I'm saying we don't need to put it off, right? Stephen Covey talks about, quadrant 2 living, doing what's important, but not urgent. See, what I just did was, okay, you only got 3 days left, 72 hours. So now there's a sense of urgency. Oh man, I got to hurry. I got to hustle. I got to make it happen. But what if you could just say, you know what, this is what I value. For some of you might say, yo, I'm going to party like there's no tomorrow, 1999, right? Remember that song? I'm going to party like, I'm going to rent out a restaurant and we're just going to party, right? I'm going to ring up my credit card, right? Now, if you are, I'm not saying you need to do that, okay? We ain't trying to get in debt, right? This is the Real Money Coach. But what I'm saying is that question allows you to get very clear on what you value. And so I love what Ruth said. Ruth said, make sure I would get in touch with all of my loved ones. See, you see the common denominator, right? Marvin said I would have a pre-pass, woo, instead of a repass. Come on, somebody. Oh, Marvin, I like that. I like that. Because again, tomorrow's not promised. But why don't we live with that sense of importance now? So I want to encourage each and every one of you right now to make a commitment before you go to bed tonight, at least connect with at least 3 people, 3 loved ones. You can send them a text, you can call them, you can send an email. If they're in your home, if they're in your home right now, you can go and give them a hug. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that with my son and my daughter. And then I'm also going to make a phone call. Okay? So what are you going to do? And the reason why I'm sharing this, and look, Alice said, I would make sure I put all of my affairs in order. Wow. You know how stressful it is? I've seen family members, I've seen friends not have their house in order, what Sister Alice just talked about. And the additional stress, the additional pain, that the other family members have to deal with. Or what about even not having a health directive, right? Where, boom, you're in a coma and the doctor says, you might be brain dead. But if you don't have your house in order, now the family's got to decide whether or not they take you off or they keep you on. I mean, what? So having your house in order, that's, again, something that's very important, but not urgent. And so let's go ahead and bring up Tony, because I wanted to get this thing moving and just kind of really thinking. Tony, how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing great. It is an awesome day. September 10th, 2020, yes, a day that we've never seen before. Yes. A day that the Lord has made, right?
No doubt.
I'll rejoice and be glad in it. So, man, I am just so excited about tonight because what we're talking about, and you didn't mention it, but I mentioned in my email I sent out today, is that September is Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Right.
Now, first of all, when I sent that out in an email, I know that there's a number of people that said, I'm not going to tune in because I don't want to hear about life insurance. I don't want to hear about this. And because it so often has a negative connotation, right?
Sure.
And, and most of us, our experience with life insurance hasn't necessarily been something that's positive, and so, but it's so important. And this has become part of my life's work, right? Is to make sure that people are properly covered.
Mm.
And, and it goes back to when I was 28 years old, when I was 27 years old and my mother passed, right? And many of you have heard me tell this story before. And so we're sitting at the funeral home and my mom has 6 life insurance policies and we find out that none of them are going to pay.
Wow.
None of them, 6, right? And so I look at my uncle, we make eye contact, Marlon,
Yeah.
And like, we got this. And my dad basically, and I said, well, we'll take care of it. My dad said, no, you won't. Said, I will not let you pay for your own mother's funeral. That's my wife. And so he borrowed money on his house to pay for her funeral.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And so, that just didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. Right? But we made it through it. And so my dad developed such a negative response to life insurance. He never wanted to have a conversation.
Sure.
He was done. He wasn't having a conversation about it. And then when he passed, he worked at the same place for 38 years, man. 38 years, same place.
Wow.
And when he passed, because he was over the age of 85, his coverage was something like $2,000. Wow. And so, here we go again. And so that's become part of my life's mission, is so that other people, there's 2 real things that I'm after. I'm after people to retire and not have to live off of Social Security only, right?
Right.
And that when it's time for us to go, that we leave a legacy.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, Marlon, you're going to either be remembered as someone who took care of it or someone who didn't. And so which side of that equation do you want to be on? And so I think it's very important. And we have dear friends that are going through different things and all of that. And so how can we be prepared? And that's what's really it's about. It's about being prepared. And
Yeah.
and so this is a message that people need to hear.
Yeah.
And
And we got Mike Perry on that just joined us, and I shared with you earlier today that his father-in-law passed away. And one thing, as I even said, I don't know how long Mike's been on, but one thing I said is that Mike shared with me, I want to give people their bouquet of flowers while they're still alive.
right.
Yeah. And so I think that that's really one of the things, and that we got to really think about. Tomorrow's not promised. And also the other thing, ain't none of us getting out of this life alive. We all
and here's the thing. It was how many people, when you asked the question, if you had 72 hours left,
that's right.
There wasn't one person that said, I checked my bank account.
Right.
There was one person that said, I'll pull up my Bank of America app and see how much money's there.
Right.
Yeah, that's the first thing that we do when we're thinking about properly take care of ourselves as well. That could just cost too much money.
Sure.
But when it's time to go, man, it's all about relationships. People buy life insurance because they love someone.
That's right.
That's why we do it.
Yeah. And the other thing, Tony, I think it's, I love what I believe it was Alice, right? She said, I'm gonna make sure my affairs are in order.
Yeah.
And I think, really, listen, I mean, seriously, we're all gonna pass away. And it's not about if, it's just about when. And to be able to really really say, what, I want to make sure my wishes are followed through, right? My desires, do I want to be, buried? Do I want to be cremated? I mean, and really just think it out. Do I want to have a funeral? Do I want to have a celebration? Right? I mean, and that to me, in all seriousness, that is power. That is a gift to your loved ones. I've seen so many people fight when a loved one dies. Yes, it's emotional, there's a sadness, but it's a whole different flavor,
I can share some stories with you that with just being involved in the church and being a minister and all that, I could share some stories with you, man, that would just blow your mind. Wow. When it comes to weddings and funerals, it brings out everything, right? Okay. And so it's just, but it's human nature. It's our human nature. And of course, we're very emotional people anyway.
Right.
And so just all of that just brings out different emotions and how we're, reacting to things. And so, yeah. But this Life Insurance Awareness Month, man, I also want us, as we shift, and we're going to share some real life stories, right? And so we have a young lady that's going to be on with us tonight. She's going to share her story. And I think her story may be like a lot of stories, right? Sure. But we want to bring some real life stories to bring the human element to this. Because, and my good friend Marvin Blanks is on. And this guy, he always says some things that kind of, gets you. But, I remember being on an appointment with him one time, and he told the client that he said, life insurance is like this. It's not like a loaf of bread. Okay. And he's like, okay, loaf of bread. He's like, you're not going to miss it if it's not there. If you need a loaf of bread, you go in the kitchen, there's not a loaf of bread. You miss that loaf of bread. Life insurance is not like that. It's not something you put your hands on. It's not something that you miss if you don't see it every day. You don't reach for it. But when you need it, you need it. Right? And that's why I was saying even last week, man, the best life insurance policy you can have is one that pays when the time comes. Right. Sure. And so that's what's important. So, and we just want to bring that human element to it, because sometimes we forget. Sometimes we forget the good that it can do and all those types of things. And so that's why I'm excited about tonight. The young lady that we're going to have, San Griffin is her name. She's been attending our Hub Financial Wellness class on Thursdays. She's there faithfully every week, engaged in the chat box and all those type of things. And the other thing that people always ask is, how much life insurance should I have? And that's a great question. I gave an acronym for that last week. Life is for loans. You got to have enough to cover any loans, any debt that you have, mortgages, that you have. And then the I is for income replacement, replacing your income, replacing your income. And then F is for final expenses. And then E is for emergencies, education. And look at Shamika Baskin. I knew somebody from Michigan would be on tonight. Shamika's on tonight from Detroit City, all right? She said, I'm tired of GoFundMe's as a substitute for insurance. Right. And she's exactly right, man. A GoFundMe is not a life insurance policy.
Right.
Right? And we got to get out of this mindset. I remember I used to sit down with young guys, man, and they would tell me, it's like, man, I don't want to jinx myself. That's why I don't have life insurance.
Sure.
All those type of things. And then, of course, we know that today it's much more than just paying when you die. There's living benefits. There's cash value that you can take off. There's so many great things. And the IRS code is really written in favor of life insurance.
Wow.
And so,
and again, I think it's a strategy, and first of all, I think, that's the importance of September, right? Life Insurance Awareness Month. And, with what you're really saying is, let's have the conversation, right? Let's just have the conversation. It's not, you're not wishing it on anybody, but it's really being responsible. It's really being mature. You really think about it, not to have it, you're going to die. My whole thing is each one of us is going to go. We just don't know when. And, I think that that's really the value. And I'm excited to bring San up as well and, and just, hear her story, because everyone has a story. Type in the chat box right now. Please type in the chat box. Have you had a loved one pass away unexpectedly? I think that's a great question. Yes or no? Do you have a loved one, family member or friend that has passed away, that has died unexpectedly? Some people say, before his or her time, right? Go ahead and type that in chat. I just want to see what numbers, yes or no. And because again, I think we have to really get down to the core of it. So go ahead, Tony.
Well, I was just gonna say, we got to keep this thing real, man. Right? We got to keep this real. COVID-19 has taken a lot of lives. Yeah. You can turn your head to it if you want, but it's taken a lot of lives. And then I hear people say, well, more people die from flu every year. More people die from this every year. Well, guess what? That is not necessarily good news. That's the reality.
Right.
And so, yeah, if that's your argument, okay, then you ought to have it. It's just responsible, right? It's just being responsible.
Yeah.
And, again, we don't want to make this all about gloom and doom and die. And Mark, I got to say this, though, as we're talking about, just getting your house in order. I was thinking about, man, you got to get your relationship with God right, too. You got to have that piece together, because what good does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Okay, you're just bringing that out of me tonight. But we got to make sure we have our whole house in order, man. Our whole house. And when I would get your affairs in order, I urge you folks tonight, and we usually don't use this platform to preach and all that, but I'm telling you, get your house in order. And this life insurance, and here's the thing that I used to tell people, if you guys allow me to go here, right? Allow me just to go here for a minute. I would tell people this. When we look at Calvary, right? I'm just going to say it. When we look at Calvary and Jesus is on the cross and he looks at John and he says, behold thy mother, right? And what that tells me is that even in his dying, he wanted to make sure that his mother was taken care of. And so if he's concerned enough about it and he's God wrapped in flesh, then shouldn't we also care enough to make sure? Now, I'm going to be the first to admit it. I'm going to put myself out there. I did not have enough life insurance. And I'm talking about being in the business 23 years, right? 20 plus years. I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough that if something happened to me, that my wife could survive without my income.
Wow.
And so I had to fix that.
Sure.
And what happens is sometimes we're so involved in helping other people that we forget about taking care of ourselves.
Right.
So she checked me, Marlon. She had to check me. Say, hey,
Right.
I see you taking care of all these other people. What about me?
Right.
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 So yeah, man. So I'm off my soapbox now. Y'all thank me for letting me get that out.
Sure.
What Marvin say here? He said, you show somebody to have life, and you show me somebody to have life insurance, and I'll show you someone who loves their family because it's for them. And
True.
that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
So Marlon, I'm ready to bring our guest on.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead and make the introduction, brother.
Let me just kind of read a little bit about her to you. Her name is San Griffin. She's an author. She has a degree from North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina, where she lives right now with her husband, Milton. Sorry, Aggies, we got an eagle in the house tonight. And she's skilled professional in child development and family relations. And what I really was impressed about is I went to her website and I looked at some of the things that she has there. And if you can go to blackhairlove.info, blackhairlove.info. Marlon, if you even type that in the chat box for us. But her name is San Griffin, and I'm going to bring her on and introduce her to the Real Money Coach. San, how you doing tonight?
I am fantastic, thank you. How are you all?
We are doing great. We saw you earlier today in the class, and so I'm just so excited. And let me tell you guys, this is how this came about. And she sent us an email last week, a week ago today, I think it was, and she was talking about the show at noon, and she said, I understood the value of life insurance because her mom passed at 28. And immediately it just touched me because, I was about 27, 28 when my mother passed. And so I was like, man, she's got to come on the show, tell us a little bit about that experience. Look, Tommy Day, he's from Durham or Raleigh somewhere. He says, he put "Go Eagles" in there. Look at that. He's talking about "Go Eagles." What, Tommy? Come on! All right. So he's in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's great to have you there. But what I want to do is, first of all, I want you to tell us a little bit about you,
Okay.
and then I'm interested in asking a few questions about your business, your books, and then we're going to get into what your experience was with your mom. So tell us a little about San Griffin.
Okay, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, Tony and Marlon, for the opportunity to be a guest tonight. I thoroughly enjoy, the financial wellness series you all are doing through the Hub. That's how I met these powerful gentlemen, and they are impactful and powerful. I was watching an interview about Oprah Winfrey, and she said she had 5 coaches. She has a financial coach, she has a life coach, and I don't have Oprah Winfrey money, so I was like, financial coach, I'm in. I'm all for it. So thank you for having me. And but a little bit about me. I like to say that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm the CEO of Aggrandize Your Life, which is all about producing transformative workshops and literature. And I do personal and professional workshops. You can go to www.aggrandizeyourlife, which means to enlarge your life, which is one of my goals, is to be a lifelong learner. And I love to share with others to help them have those paradigm shifts and look at life differently, which leads me to my next venture, my sub brand, which is Black Hair Love. I started Black Hair Love. It was a passion project for me, but I actually was encouraged by 2 quotes. One from the late, great Toni Morrison. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and she passed last year. But she have a quote that said, if you don't see the book that you would like to read, or you would like for your children to read, then you should write it. And that's what I did. I literally did that. And also another quote that inspired me was from evangelist Mike Murdoch. He said, that which pains you could lead you to your assignment. And I truly believe. Okay.
Say that again. That which pains you leads you to your assignment.
To your assignment. Yes, yes. And I truly believe that everybody's born with a purpose. and I believe in living a purpose-filled life. So it pained me. Black hair love, I used to tell people, it was like babies. I would be, getting ready to go to sleep, and it would be on my mind. Just thinking about the underrepresented, beautiful hair that we have, and how is not in literature. Preschoolers don't see themselves, and they deserve, Black preschoolers deserve to see images that look like them. And I was watching CNN, and a lady said, there are more books about animals than Black children. And I'm the type person, my mom taught me, she said, hey, don't just talk about a problem, be a solution finder. So in the spirit of, those two quotes, and thinking about what my mom said, and using my love for transformative literature, I created Black Hair Love. I have.
Pull that up. Yeah. All right.
And the artist is Igea Charles out of South Carolina. So I have one for each age group. This is the preschool book. And you wouldn't believe that there aren't many books with Black males on them, Black male youth on them, in a positive manner. And this is the teen book. So it's a series, and it's a book for all ages. And I just thank you all for allowing me to share it tonight, and share my goal, which is to empower our youth to understand that they are beautiful and to embrace their unique crowns. God created them, and God don't make any mess. He created, he said, you're good. So I just want to share that with you all tonight.
Well, what do you think about that, man? That's pretty awesome. And I love how it was birthed out, and it sounds like that you're just on a mission to just help people, and to help them and help our children understand what to value themselves. And
value themselves, yes. Build their confidence up and allow them to see themselves. When I was younger, I actually used to watch TV looking at the background, because the people of color will be they were the extras. So in my mind, I internalized that we were extra people. And in this era where we say that all lives matter, Black lives matter, well, let's show them that they matter. Let's put them on the cover. Let's allow them to see themselves, and not only see themselves, but with impactful words. So the words are actually transformative words about our hair. Instead of saying it's nappy, it's strong. It's strong like your ancestors. It's strong the way God created you to be. He equipped you for the journey. And I have one poem in there, says born protected. And I looked up melanin. Melanin means protection from the sun. And I just put that definition in there. And then the afro. What is the afro's protection? As someone with no hair on a cold day, they're going to buy what God has already given you, protection. So we're born protected. So those little paradigm shifts are in the book, and it's transformative literature for youth and adults all ages.
Well, I think it's so important because our self-image, right? And as we're growing up, and we have you got Barbie and Ken and all these things, not as many images of us that are associated with beauty. And when we did have them, it was they had the long hair and all those type of things, but not just our natural beauty, because we're a beautiful people, and come in all shades and all colors and all different grades of hair. You have pretty boys like Marlon, and he's a Kappa. That's why I said that. But you have all of that, and I loved it. When I went to your website, I absolutely fell in love with what you're doing and the mission that you're on. And I think it's also very much related to what we do, because when we talk about finances, we have to go back and rewrite the script, okay? Because we've been told money doesn't grow on trees. We've been told that there's so many poor people in Africa. We've been told this, and we've been given all these cliches, over our lifetime, and it really has developed our psychology as it relates to money. And I think the same thing has happened to us when we look at ourselves. And I can remember being with youth groups, and I said, I want you to look in the mirror. And I remember I even preached a sermon one time. It's like, you look like God. And what I told them is this: when you stand up and you look in the mirror, you look like God, because he said he created us in his own image, right? And so you look like God, and he loves us, and we have to learn how to love ourselves.
I agree with that. And you know, I didn't plug my other book. It's called The Superhero's Guide to Dominate.
I wanted you to talk about that.
I have a character called Creator Junior, and I created that character to remind children they are like their father, their heavenly father, the creator, and they are Creator Juniors. And just like God used his words and said, let there be light, they can use the words and say, I am smart, I am beautiful, I can do anything I want to do. So yeah, that was my first book, The Superhero's Guide to Superhero's Guide to Dominate Their Universe. So that's on Amazon as well.
Okay, yeah, I did see that, and I was like, wow. And here's the thing, and how ironically that we can tie all this together, right? Because I'm just drawn to thinking about Chad Bosser, right? Here is a superhero. My grandson loves Black Panther.
Me too.
Right? He loves Black Panther, and when you're talking about having a superhero, to see a superhero that looks like him, he's got dark skin, right? He's got everything, and that meant so much to so many of our people, and I think especially our little boys. You know, those of us who grew up with Superman and Spider-Man and Batman and all these characters, but now we had one that was our own. Now, the other thing, wrapping this around, is when I look at him and I look at all the different interviews and I look at his style, his hair, you know, he was just himself, right? And then, unfortunately, we lost him at a very early age, which kind of wraps us back around to the life insurance story. And so, you know, I just think it all comes full circle. It all comes full circle. So what I want to do is I want to ask everybody in the chat box, if you have some questions for San in terms of her book, the series, Black Hair Love, and remember, blackhairlove.info. If you have some questions, put them in the chat box. But now I want to move on a little bit. As you heard us talking about that, you know, September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. And when you sent that email, you mentioned that in terms of that your mom passed at 28 years old. You were 28, correct?
28, yes.
Yeah, okay. So tell us a little bit about your mom and what happened.
Yes, I love to. Well, my mom was that woman in the church over the follow-up committee. And if you weren't in church for like 3 weeks or something, you know, you would get a phone call from my mother. Sister so-and-so, are you okay? We haven't seen you in a couple weeks. Is it something you need? Or you need a ride? You know, that was my mother. She was always on the phone doing follow-up, and she also was over outreach. So she come from humble beginnings, and she didn't mind going back, you know, to those areas and reaching people, reaching the lost. So that was my mom. She was an entrepreneur. She had a boutique on Federal Street, and she encouraged us to support small businesses and buy Black and support our community. She was a loving mother, woman of God, wife. She was just a beautiful person and loved by the church, a pillar of the church. So when I turned 28, I had no idea my life would be turned upside down, because my mom was to me, like a superhero and such a strong woman and a woman of God. I had no idea that she would die in a head-on collision taking my sister to college. My sister was going to Appalachian State University, and they were on the way there before a big snowstorm, but they didn't know that, I guess, ice was already on the roads. and they hydroplaned into another oncoming vehicle. So people died in the other car as well. So it was a really, really bad accident. But just backing up 2 months prior to that, I was going to my mom's house. And like I said, I was recently married. I was married probably like a year and a half by that time. And we were looking forward to traveling together and doing wonderful things. I bought a house. So just looking forward to doing those things you dream about doing with your parents and your husband. And I went to my mom's house about 2 months before the accident, and sitting in the living room was a insurance representative. And she told me, she said, well, you need to talk to them and make sure you get some insurance. I just purchased some as well. And so once they left, she explained to me and my sister that she had a 6-figure policy. Out of respect to my family, I won't say exactly how much, but she had a 6-figure policy, and she had a bright idea since she was working for the church. She had retired and was working for the church, that we would split it and pay the policy. And she said, you know, people do that all the time. And that way, if something happened to me, you all will be set. And so I would say 2 weeks before the accident, we didn't know that she had changed the policy. Because my sister and I, we never did go in and pay like we said we were going to do. So when my mom passed, we went to find the paperwork, which she had already showed us where all her essential paperwork would be in case of emergency. She told us where to find it and where everything would be. So we were definitely grateful for that, for her talking to us about that. And we called the insurance company and found out that the policy had been changed. So it was no longer 6 figures, it was 5 figures. However, going through her essential mail and paperwork where she showed us it would be, we found out she had other policies that were debited out of her bank account. So that's how we were able to locate them. We went through her bank statements and we saw the premiums had been debited. And lo and behold, she had, you know, several other policies. And as I was talking to Mr. Tony earlier today, you compartmentalize a lot of things. And I remember I said, you know what, I was able to leave my 9 to 5 and start my home-based business from the insurance that my mother left for us. So I was very grateful that she talked to us about life insurance, that she showed us where to find her essential paperwork. And she also talked to us about our social emotional being. She said, now, if something happened to me, please don't act like it's the end of the world and try to crawl in that casket.
Well, you know, I think you said something that's very important. I want to emphasize that.
Okay.
One is that she had the conversation with you.
Yes.
And I think that's very important, is that we have the conversation. You guys knew where things were. You knew where to find them. You knew all those type of things. And I think that's very key. Yeah. Now, the other thing is, and we would run into this all the time, is, and not so much more, but like early in my career, even a few years ago, I run into this all the time. It's like, well, people say, I don't want anyone going into my bank account getting anything. I don't want anyone. And what we try to share with them is this. If nothing else comes out of your bank account, it needs to be your insurance. Yeah. Because for the very reason you just shared, it leaves a paper trail.
You sure did.
So you guys wouldn't have had the bank statement and it said XYZ company, then you never would have known to contact them in order to then be able to file the claim and be able to get the life insurance proceeds. And there's so many policies that go unclaimed and all that because someone goes away, they're sending a check, they're sending in a money order every week or every year, and no one really knows that policy exists. That's true. So I think that's one of the benefits to making sure that we leave our records in order, that there's that paper trail with the account. And so I think those are very key things.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there, but you know, and you said, so now because of what your mom, of her preparedness and doing things, it allowed you to be able to really go and start your own business and live your dream.
Yes, absolutely. Sure did. Sure did.
Now, did you have other siblings or?
Yes, yes. My younger sister, like I said, she was a student at Appalachian State, so she was able to. It gave us time to grieve, as well as plan our next steps, and imagine life without her. So it definitely did what it was supposed to do.
Well, and here's the thing that I want to say. And what we have to realize is we're talking about this. And when we're talking about life insurance, we're talking about having this in place. It does not replace the person. But what it does, it gives you, instead of having, because you're going to grieve, right?
Yeah.
Especially unexpected car accident. I imagine going through the mountainous terrain, going up to Boone, North Carolina. And so the grieving process is still there. But to compound grieving with the financial burden can be really tough.
Exactly.
And what I commend your mom and for what she did is she made sure that there were some things in place so that you guys could, be able financially to continue on. And that's so important.
Yes, yes. And I actually still have one of the policies that she had on my father. I still actually have that policy. And it had cash value once I took it over, because she had it for a while, because it was a whole life insurance policy. So it had cash value.
Okay. Well, and that's the other thing. It's interesting. We hadn't talked about that, but cash value. And a lot of times people will ask, what is better? Is it better to have term, or is it better to have whole life? And really, it really boils down to, I still tell people this, it boils down to what do you want the policy to do and when do you want to do it? And so I'm not sure how old your dad is now, but, a lot of term policies, most of them expire at some point. It might be 20 years, it might be 80 years, might be 85. At some point they're going to expire, but because it's a whole life, there's some cash value in there, and policy's still in force today.
Yes, I definitely enjoy the whole life. I've had term before and whole life, and like you said, the term normally like 7 years you have to renew, and then you're older, so the policy is going to be more once you renew. So I like whole life. I don't know what you all are the professionals, but I like whole life because I like the cash value. And if say life hits you again and you're not prepared for something, you could actually go and get a loan from yourself, take money out of the cash value of that policy.
Right. And that's why we like them too. But I tell people this, if you can't afford a permanent insurance, right? And there's different types of permanent insurance, whole life, universal life, index universal life. There's different types. If you can't afford permanent insurance, then by all means get term, because the most important thing is to have the coverage.
Be covered.
If anything happens, and I tell people all the time, a great use of term is if you got a mortgage. I mean, you might have a large mortgage. I'm looking at your house back there. You might need $1 million of life insurance to cover that mortgage, right? So making sure that you have enough to cover your obligations, and sometimes that means we got to get term because that's what we can afford. And so I so much appreciate you coming on,
Thank you,
sharing your story, being totally transparent. Marlon, I'm going to bring Marlon back on. Marlon, you have any questions for Sam you'd like to ask here?
Yeah, no, Sam, I really appreciate your transparency. I think that, we all, life does, as I was saying at the beginning, it really does hit us all. And for you to be so transparent and I love the fact that your mom was forward thinking, for her to sit you and your sister down and to talk about, hey, this is, where all my essential paperwork is. Here are my wishes. She took off a lot of the stress, right? And then, just a short time later, that's when the accident took place. And so, what a blessing. And I also love the fact that you said your pain leads you to your purpose.
Yeah.
Mike Murdoch, I know who, been with him, and it's just powerful. I like to say it's your misery that becomes your ministry, right? Test that become your testimony. And so, I think that tonight was really great, and I'm very grateful. Tony and I both are very grateful that you were willing to be transparent, and share your story. I think that one of the things I'm feeling is there's a strong strength that you represent. And I think even the blackhairlove.info, and advertiseyourlife.com, I believe that, your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. And so, we definitely look forward to, seeing how we can be a blessing for you from the standpoint of, just kind of taking a look and, having your free complimentary, financial coaching session, so that we can just see, okay, where are you? No obligation, 100% confidential. But the reason why I say that is because one thing you said about Oprah is that, Oprah, has a team of advisors, right? And that's one of the things I think we have to do better with, we as a community is understand, do what you do the best and delegate others to do the rest. Right. And so that to me is very powerful. So again, I want to say thank you, for being here with us, and please stay in the community.
She's already scheduled, man. She's scheduled for next week.
Oh, okay. That's what she was smiling. Okay, good.
Here's the thing I want to say about this too is even her, and it sounds like that she's really, got some things together. Her mom taught her well. Even her is saying, hey, listen, I don't mind getting a second opinion.
Right.
And so if you want to hit us at info@therealmoneycoach, you can do that. We'll schedule a time. So again, Sam, I want you to stay in the back room for a few minutes while we wrap up the show. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. Thank you.
All right. Awesome.
So Marlon, this is what I love about tonight. Most of the time in our community, we hear about the negative when it comes to life insurance. Sure. We hear about all of the stories of someone dying that didn't have it, right? Shamika said earlier, she talked about the GoFundMes. Back in our day, Marlon, there wasn't a GoFundMe, there was the fish fry, right?
Right.
Or you had to do a collection, different ways to do that. We always hear about that. We never really hear about the stories of when someone did have it and how it impacted her sister, she mentioned, and how she was able to start a business because of what her mom had done. And so I love the fact that we can bring this, from a positive standpoint, rather than always saying, woe is us, because no one had, and I remember someone telling me one time, it's like, man, I don't want life insurance because do you know anybody who ever died with it? Or, and so, there's we got to get out of that mindset. And so that's what I loved about tonight and her story, is that it's a story of success when it comes to this particular topic of life insurance.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think that what's so valuable, as I said, earlier, ain't none of us getting out of this alive. And so why not, I guess nobody wants to leave, right? I get it. But at the same time, to be intentional and say, you know what, let me get things in order. I mean, think about the peace. Think about the peace that San's mom gave to she and her daughter, and she and her sister, right? She gave to her two daughters, just saying, hey, here's my paperwork, here's what I've got, here, is my wishes, right? And so that takes so much stress off of somebody. And so again, I want to thank Sam for being here, and Tony, this has been great. And so, we'll wrap up. Why don't you wrap up tonight, Tony? Would you like to wrap up?
Sure, man. I would love to do that. And I just wanted to point out some of the things that a few of the folks said here. Ruth said, thank you so much for the awesome story. So very proud of you. And so we have, comments. Brad here said, thank you, San. And here's the thing about it is that we know that it's not always easy to come out and kind of open yourself up to, to a public that you don't know, right? And we got a lot of people here. Amy Griffin is a wonderful estate attorney. She's been with us before. Grieving should not be complicated with financial distress. Oh, wow. Amy, wonderful comment. I love that. And so what Amy does, Amy works with wills and trust and all those type of things so that we have these insurance policies, we have these things in place so that we are now in a position where we can hang on to them. And so that was wonderful. Thank you, Amy, for being with us tonight. Thank you for sharing your comment. And so in conclusion tonight, folks, we just want to, Alice said, thank you for sharing, San. And so we really just want to just make everyone aware. And the whole point is to let you be aware that this is something that we need to take care of. And it's really not too late to do it. Obviously, the younger we are, time is on our side, age is on our side, but it's never too late to put these plans in place. And if nothing else, just get the free review. And I'll tell you, I've seen all sorts of things. I sat with a gentleman one time and we found out that the life insurance company had him listed as his own beneficiary. Wow. What a mess that would have been had we not discovered that. So those are the types of things that we do. I've shared a story where I paid out $100,000 one time to a lady's ex-husband because she never changed the beneficiary. And so those are the types of things that we can do. And our cost is absolutely free. For us to do a review, to do a financial, sit down with you, it costs you absolutely nothing. And so it's what we do. It's important to us. And we hope that it's important to you. So tonight, on behalf of the Real Money Coach, myself, Marlon Smith, and Chris Jackson, we thank you and have a great evening. And we'll see you right here again next week, 8 o'clock on Thursday night for the Real Money Coach. Take care, everybody.